Hey folks, how's it going? How's everybody? Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you folks a little bit about a video regarding an article that appears in iLearn, and it's something that actually there's a few questions on the study guide about it, so we'll just kind of go over that a little bit here. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at the article just to sort of see what I'm talking about, and we'll see from there what it is. All right, so here's the article, and you can actually find this article in iLearn, and it's called How Male, Female, and Mixed Gender Groups Regard Interaction and Leadership Differences in a Business Communication Course by Janet Winter, Joan C. Neal, and Karen Waner at Central Missouri State University, Warrensburg. So lots of interesting things going on there. And it looks like this appeared in the Business Communication Quarterly, volume 64 in 2001 originally. So I think it's still pretty relevant. And actually we can look, and this is in the course pack for free in your iLearn course. So you can find it in iLearn. And before we look at that article in a lot of detail, let's go ahead and look at the study guide. Here's your study guide for quiz 3. And then scrolling down, here's some questions. Winter, Neal, Waner, how male, female, and mixed gender groups regard interaction and leadership differences in the Business Communication course, Business Communication Quarterly, 64, 43 to 48. And the questions are, were males or females more likely to take the lead in the groups? Which groups were the most competitive, female groups versus mixed gender versus male groups? What type of group was most likely to have a natural leader, female groups versus mixed gender versus male groups? And in mixed gender groups, were females or males most likely to go along with everything? Interesting. So those are some interesting questions, certainly. And they're being asked there. And then they did some research on that. And then they came up with answers. And this study guide, by the way, is in iLearn as well. So you can find that there. All right, so let's go over to our article. I'm going to put these right next to each other just so we can go back and forth. There's the questions, and then there's the article. All right, so here we go. Let's start with like the top part here, which is usually like sort of a summary. Research on leadership and teams suggests that men and women exhibit different leadership and interpersonal communication styles. A review of literature and a survey of students in upper level business communication courses at Central Missouri State University provide evidence for 5 strategies to assist students in dealing with team interaction situations. 1, instruct students in techniques to avoid groupthink and to promote and handle competition. And you might note I have a video on groupthink, and there's a section in your textbook on groupthink. Offer students ideas on and methods for researching agreement in a timely manner. Vary the subject of group writing assignments to allow each student to be perceived as an expert. Encourage all students to be active participants in the group process. Emphasize the importance of good writing skills to both males and females. Finally, further research is needed regarding the natural leader role, the role of competition in groups, and the effect of perceptions of tasks as either feminine or masculine. Okay, and so this is Neal and Waner. How male, female, and mixed gender groups regard interaction and leadership differences. So we have the right article, just making sure. Okay, so they do a group review of leadership of literature, and so you can read over that. And let's go and see what they actually found in this. these are their results. The following sections detail the results for each of the research questions. Cooperativeness of group members. Students reported their group members to be very cooperative. That's nice. Competitive. Students reported that group members were somewhat competitive. Method of sharing work. Okay, we can scroll this. Leadership role. Students were split fairly evenly regarding the presence of a natural leader of the group. More students agreed, however, that no natural leader emerged. Team members just pitched in whenever they had ideas. This response seems to support this idea. And then we come to differences of responses among the three. Finally, we were interested in determining in the three types of groups, male, female, and mixed gender, that's like mixture of male and female, differed from each other. I know this is binary female and male stuff, but this article is kind of like before that. It was a topic, so this was back before there was that idea of gender neutral and cisgender and whatnot. On these same variables concerning cooperativeness, no significant differences exist between group types. However, significant differences do exist among group types on competitiveness. Male groups and mixed gender groups perceive themselves as more competitive. So the males are more competitive, and the mixed gender groups are more competitive than the female groups. So the female groups are less competitive in their communication style. And you can look back to the competitive, for example, the competitive conflict style, for example, that we looked at earlier this semester. The finding seems to support a study which found that women often receive higher ratings in pleasantness and men for aggressiveness. So the men are more aggressive and the women are more pleasant. Some interesting results. For example, 43% of the respondents in mixed gender groups indicated that people most likely to take the lead in such groups were females. So for example, 43% of the respondents in mixed gender groups indicate that the people most likely to take the lead in such groups were females. Let's see this here. I'm going to highlight this just to see that. So in the mixed gender groups, the females were more likely to take the lead. Okay, let's go back and look at our questions actually then. So the question is, were males or females more likely to take the lead? The answer is females. Which groups were the most competitive, right? Females, because we see that here. That's the finding. Which one's the most competitive? The mixed gender groups and the male groups were the most competitive compared to the female groups. What type of group is most likely to have a natural leader? And in mixed gender groups where females are more likely to go along with everything. Let's see about that. So let's see what else it says here. Although Israeli suggests that men are likely to be perceived as leaders unless the group is made up mainly of women, the results from the study appear to contradict the findings from the earlier research. In another interesting finding, 43% of the students in mixed gender groups indicate that a male group member was the person most likely to go along with everything. Okay. So there it is. Going back to this, what type of group was most likely to, excuse me, in mixed gender groups where females or males most likely to go along with everything? The males, right? The males are more or less likely to go along with everything, okay? All right, so we see lots of this. And here we go to this finding. A significant difference does exist among types of groups for student description of leadership roles on one variable. Mixed gender groups tend to identify a natural leader more often than do all female and all male groups. So you're more likely to have, quote, a natural leader that just sort of arises up without having to kind of assert themselves as the leader. They kind of just rise up as the leader. Mixed gender groups indicate that people most likely to take the lead were females. So those are our answers there. A significant does exist among the types of groups for student description of leadership's roles on the variable. Mixed gender groups tend to identify a natural leader more often than all female or all male groups. So you have a mixed gender, you have more likely to have like a leadership sort of naturally rise up. And in mixed gender groups indicate that the people most likely to take the lead were the females. Okay. So that's that finding there. So you can actually find all the questions to the study guide in the article there. And this article is for free in iLearn for you guys. And you can find it in the course pack at the bottom there. So let's take a look back at the questions and like go through and review all of them. Let's just start with this one at the bottom because we just read that. In mixed gender groups, were females or males more likely to go along with everything? The men. And then what type of group was most likely to have a natural leader? The mixed gender groups. And then here, female groups versus mixed gender groups versus male groups. The question there, it's the mixed gender one. And the women were most likely to rise up as the leader. Okay. So were males or females more likely to take the lead? Females. Okay. So let's look at all the questions. So again, Winter and Neal, Waner, and then we got the articles right here. Were males or females more likely to take the lead in groups? Females is the answer in the article, according to their research, what they found. Which groups were the most competitive? The mixed gender and the male groups were more competitive than the female, and then these two were about the same, but the female was the least competitive. More likely to be collaborative, I imagine. What type of group was most likely to have a natural leader? Female groups or mixed gender or male groups? Mixed gender, more likely to have a natural leader. And more likely to be a woman, actually, like we talked about earlier. In mixed gender groups, were females or males most likely to go along with everything? The men. The answer is the men. Males. Excuse me. So that's the answers to the question that they found in that article, and you guys can take a look at the article and read it over. It's in iLearn, and you can see each of the answers. Were males or females more likely to take the lead? Females is the answer. Which groups were the most competitive? Mixed gender and male were more competitive than female. These two are about equal. What type of group was most likely to have a natural leader? In this situation, the mixed gender groups, without having to like make it a big deal. Someone could just kind of easily rise up as a leader in a natural kind of way. And then in mixed gender groups, were females or males most likely to go along with everything? It's the men. Okay, so that's how you can find your the article things. And again, all the answers for that are in this article. How male, female, and mixed gender groups regard interaction, leadership differences in business communication course. And they are studying this very carefully with science and researching it. And they just kind of lay it all out here, how they got that together. So their method is to gain insight into student perception and practice. We developed a 12-item questionnaire that we circulated to 183 students in upper level business communication courses. The questions solicited information concerning their experiences in group work during the semester. Students had been randomly assigned to groups of 4 to 6. So they researched this, and that's what they found. Now, you might disagree with their research, or you might agree, but that's what they found anyway. So the article's just telling you what they found. And the question on the quiz is going to ask you what did the authors say in this article? What research did they do, and how did they end up reporting it, and what did they report? So you can take a look at the article to figure all that out. This is pretty, this is controversial topic. Whenever you talk about gender differences between men and women, there can be definitely some disagreements, and not everybody agrees with everything, and some people agree, some people disagree. And you could say that the article is sexist, or the research is sexist, perhaps, or you could say it's not valid or whatever. But you have to look at it and just decide for yourself ultimately. Basically, sexism is bad still, and I think this article points in the direction of kind of like what we've known, that women make good leaders, and they are great leaders. So, we're seeing that now with we have a candidate for vice president, female. Lots of women leadership in the world right now, trying to get away from sexism and women not being able to take on a leadership position, which has been kind of a problem with the sexism in our society. And I think this article kind of just points all that out, that women make good leaders as well. Men make good leaders too, but this just points out that women make good leaders too, and these are some ways that, and some findings that they have. So you can take a look at the article. You might find an article outside that's different from this or differs from that, but that's basically what they discovered there. And you can take a look at it and check it out and see what you think. Your opinion, you might find a different article that says something different, but the questions on the quiz will ask you what this article says. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to agree with everything they say, but that's what they say. And that's what they found. So you could take a look at that article, and there's a bunch of articles in the packets and in I Learned for You for this class, and you can see how they actually look at those research articles. And one of the reasons we look at these research articles is we ask ourselves in college and university, how do we know what we say we know? We think we know something. How do we actually know the thing that we think we know? And then also, like, when you look at something like a textbook, you wonder, like, how do they get the information for that textbook? Like, how does that come about? And the answer is that the information comes from research, and these research articles are eventually compiled into a textbook. So that's how your textbooks are made up. So yeah, so check it out, take a look at it, let me know what you think. Email me if you have any questions or concerns or anything. Take a look at the article itself to get ready for the quiz, and then obviously take the quiz questions and check them out, see what you think, do your best on the quiz, and email me if you have questions. I'm always available. So thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like the article about gender differences there. And of course, this is all before the idea of, like, getting away from gender binary. Because there could be more. If a study was done today, it would be a little different, because it wouldn't just be like male and female. It'd be looking at maybe some other things that get away from the binary nature of gender. But for now, that's what they have there in the article, and we can take a look at that. Okay, have a great day, and email me if you have any questions. Thanks so much.